right, so without further ado, I have the pleasure of introducing our closing keynote, John Riley, also from Alabama. He is going to talk with us today about leadership in a fearful time. He is a fantastic motivational speaker and humorist. I was just blown away by his presentation in Alabama. He went to play football at Auburn University and was drafted by Oakland. When his football career came to an end, he explored the business world. So he comes with a lot of background and a lot of knowledge and a great message to end our keynote. So without further ado, John Riley.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It is good to be here today. I appreciate so much for staying around for the closing session. I understand some of you have been here since 2 weeks ago or something. Long time ago anyway. Great place to have a meeting, Indianapolis, isn't it? Especially in the downtown area. Beautiful hotel, beautiful city, fantastic folks. I've met so many people since I've been here. I got in yesterday and I took a little walk after I saw Laura and some of the other folks, walked around the city a little bit. Some of the restaurants, looked in, checked menus and prices, and then had a great time. So I'm glad to be with you this morning. Laura, thank you very much. I met Laura in Alabama. Now, talking about people who stand out, she stands out. Her smile, she never stopped smiling from the time I met her. And she hasn't since yesterday when I saw her yesterday. Laura does a great job, as you know, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Because of Laura, I'm here today. Janine called me. It's good to meet Janine. We only talked by phone, and she sent emails to me through my daughter, and so it's good to meet her. Daniel, tremendous. I met Daniel last year at the Alabama Convention as well, and Daniel was telling me earlier, he didn't say this, but I did, he's a movie star. Daniel made 4 cameo appearances in Mom's Night Out, which will be released next summer. And they've already contracted him to be in 3 other movies. Fantastic. Very good. And he's going to sing again too. I said, Daniel, are you singing before I speak? He said, yes, and after. I said, good. Thought about him a lot since last year. I said, if you want to, I'll take a break in the middle and sing again. Does a great job. I hope it's been a good conference for you. I know people are from far away. Somebody was down, I think some folks are here from Africa, and somewhere in Europe, Canada, all over America. Tremendous. I wish we could stay longer. It's a good thing to do. I was thinking when Laura and I talked about what we would be doing and talking about leadership in fearful times, I thought about this, and especially after being at the Alabama Convention last year. You're already leaders. Leadership, of course, has so many different definitions, but you already are. And one thing I remember from last year, a lot of ladies involved, and I love speaking to groups of ladies, do a lot of ladies deals, a lot in the banking industry. And somebody came up to me a while back I was speaking for some banking convention, and one lady came up and she said, do you like stories? I said, I love stories. And I don't know if this happened or not, but she said, did you hear about the man, this was I think in Vermont. Don't hold me to that one, but I think so. In Vermont, that this guy died, this was published. Anyway, he was not a very likable fellow. And he was not real good, he was not involved in anything. But he left $30,000, everything else, he just used it up, he left $30,000 to his widow and said, I want every bit of this spent on my funeral. And being an honorable lady, she said, I'll do it. Well, after the funeral, her best friend came to her and said, did you really do it? She said, what do you mean? She said, did you really do it? She said, yes, I did. She said, well, what did you spend the $30,000? She said, well, I gave $200 to the pastor. I gave $300 to the church and for the little lunch. And she said, I spent $2,500 on the memorial stone. She said, 25, how big is the stone? She said, 4.5 carats. Women are much better with financial planning than men, I can assure you. I read this thing the other day. I brought this along, talking about leadership. But I brought this. I thought it was really good. It said, anyway, Dan was a single guy, worked with his father's business. His daddy was quite wealthy. And he called him in one day and he said, son, I hate to tell you this, but I just got back from the doctor. I have an incurable disease. I'll be dead within 2 years. You will inherit the entire business, plus I have put in a trust fund for you $300 million. He said, well, Dad, that's fantastic, and I appreciate it so much, but the news of your 2 years of life left, that just kind of takes away a lot from it. He said, it's okay, we're going to have a great time. Well, the young man got to thinking about it. He said, I don't want to be left alone. He was not married. He said, I don't want to be left alone. I need to meet somebody. Well, sure enough, about 2 weeks later, he was at some dinner, and he saw the most beautiful woman he had ever seen before. He looked at her hand, didn't see a ring, walked up to her, introduced himself, and he said, I hate to be so forward, but you are the most beautiful woman, and you're so smart. And he went through a list of things. He said, you're not married, are you? She said, no, I'm not. He said, well, I would like to get to know you. And he told her the story. Within 2 years, I'll inherit $300 million and a company. And he went on with all the things he'd get. And she said, well, that is very interesting. May I have your card? So he gave her his card. 2 weeks later, she became his stepmother. That's pretty smart. Well, that's kind of leadership in fearful times. It's kind of like we look at it and say, okay, we can't wait for anything else to happen. We got to do something. We got to get involved. We've got to move ahead. We can't wait. Things are pretty tough. So we want to do the best we can with what we have. When I met Daniel last year and then hear him sing this morning, he sang a song last year. I think it was either the song he sang this morning or much similar to that, and basically saying, look at what we've done, and look at where we've been, and look at where we're going, and look at what we can do. And I remembered all the things he sang about came under the areas of service and serving. I know of no greater leadership principle than service. You are servants. That's what you do. You serve all the time. So basically, this is not something to tell you what to do. It's just basically to encourage you to keep doing what you're already doing. My background is, I think I shared this with Laura. My mother was Cherokee Indian. My daddy's Irish. So I'm kind of a mongrel. But I get a lot of Irish stories. My favorite Irish story, somebody gave me about 3 years ago. Said O'Leary got up every morning, read the paper. But all he read was the obituary column. And one morning, as he was reading, there was his name. So he called his best friend Sean. He said, Sean, did you read the paper this morning? He said, aye, I did. He said, did you see my name in the obits? He said, aye, I did. He said, where are you calling from? Well, every morning when we get up, we want to say, where am I calling from? What is my perspective? What is my attitude? What are the things that I'd like to see happen today? What am I working on in my life? What do I really want to accomplish in the time I have left? Now, we're not talking about age or anything like that, but we're just talking about with today, tomorrow, whatever we have. I'm more conscious of this the older I get. I was sitting with a young lady on the plane coming in yesterday from Atlanta to Indianapolis. She's with Speedo Corporation. I thought, that is interesting. I said, where are you going? She said, going to Indianapolis. I said, so you'll be in the city? Yes. And she said, I'm going for a pre-Olympic swim meet. I work mainly West Coast. And then she went into all the things she does. Probably 27, 28 years of age. And just a tremendous young lady. And I enjoyed so much getting to talk with her. And I always like to do this. So I asked her, I said, well, tell me, how did you get with Speedo? What are your goals? Where are you headed? And she went through all those things. And everything she talked about, she over and over was talking about, I want to do more than I can do to serve, that I've done to serve this industry. I want to help people in this way. I get involved in my community. She's in St. Petersburg now, was in LA for 5 years, now she's in St. Petersburg, Florida, and she said, everything I'm involved in, I want to serve. I want to be good in my company. I want to be good in the community. I want to help people that I'm close to. I just want to be involved with people. This morning, I went down earlier, a little bit early. I wake up early. Anyway, I went to the fitness center, which I need a lot of, and I went in to work out, and there was a young lady there standing on her head. Now, I watched her. There was another young lady making her picture. Now, I mean, she was just standing on her head. And, I mean, looked great. You can tell she was in great shape. So when she came down and this young lady was making her picture, I said to her, I said, can you teach me how to do that? And she very kindly said, yes. I figured she was going to say, not at your age. But she said, yes, but I would encourage you to start. She's a yoga instructor, certified yoga instructor, and she just started talking. And she went into how I could do that, other things that I could do, and she said very kindly, as you get older, or in other words, you're already there, boy, but as you get older, here are some things you can do. I didn't pay for that, didn't ask for that, she just did it. I find more and more people, you probably do too, who are great leaders because they are great servants. And they're very, very much involved. Well, I just jotted down a few things. You can add 100 to my 2 or 3, but this is what I thought about. It does matter how we live. It does matter what you do. It matters about everything. A few years ago in St. Louis, never forget this, I got out for my morning walk. It was pretty early. It was after daylight. But I left the hotel, went down through a parking lot to a little strip center. And as I walked along, I was looking at the shingles hanging there of the different people and what they did. And about the second little storefront there, it had this sign and it said, Dr. William Jones, veterinarian and taxidermist. I think it was a joke. I really do. But it said veterinarian taxidermist, and then in small letters on it said, either way, you get your pet back. Had to be a joke. Had to be. Well, I think about that so often. It's always in my mind, and I think either way you get your pet back. Either way you get through life. Either way you get through. No, it does matter, doesn't it? You take your Poochie to the veterinarian, you want him back, not stuffed. And life, I think, is kind of the same way. You know, we go into a meeting like this, we go back home, we get involved in the things we do, and we want to keep in mind, you've heard this all week, I'm sure, it matters. It really matters. Your life matters. What you do matters. How you do it matters. You've heard that 1,000 times, but I cannot remind people enough. And everywhere I go, I'm meeting people who are serving, who are doing that. I went out to eat last night. Wanted to go, but I ate early, Laura, and sorry, I missed being with the group. But I went out to eat, and from the time I went in the front door, people were saying, "Let us help." You call people here in the hotel. Yes, Mr. Riley. How do they know that? Anyway, I'm not very technical, but yes, what can I do for you today? And everything is my pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure. Serving, but yet we don't always see it everywhere. You do it. You continue to do it, and that's what makes a difference, I believe, in leadership. So, first thing I thought about is, let's serve, and here are just some ways to serve. You're already doing this. Just a reminder, just an encouragement, just a thank you. Always serve with enthusiasm. I don't mean you got to be a cheerleader, have to jump up and down, but always serve with enthusiasm. Enthusiasm comes from 2 Greek words. You've heard that before. It means God within us. You say, well, I don't understand that. I don't either. I'm not a theologian. I'm not a preacher. I don't understand that, but I think that is big, 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 big stuff. And this is what it means to me. God within us means that every one of you is created in a certain way, and I believe that with all my heart. I don't want to offend anybody by what I say, but I do believe that you have been made for a purpose, and you've been made in a specific way, and nobody else can do what you do in the way you do it. And when you're gone, you're going to be missed. So enthusiasm, God within us, means we have a calling. You couldn't do what you do without being called to do that. When Daniel gets up here to sing, he's got gifts. He has talent. He has a calling. He has passion. He has desire, or he couldn't do that. Where did he get that? Certainly he learned it from his family. He learns it from you. Anytime I go to a place like this, I'm always looking at people and listening. And I love to watch people do what they do. I mentioned Laura. From the first time I met her, she was always smiling. You don't do that unless you enjoy what you're doing. I was talking with a guy yesterday before I left Atlanta. We were on the phone. And he said, where are you going? And I told him. He said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, well, this is what I'm going to talk about. He said, well, that's a good thing. He said, I have a good friend. See him most every day. I've forgotten what the company is. But he said for 25 years, he has done the same job. And he hates it. I said, well, how does he do it? He said, well, he just looks forward to weekends. That's how he gets through it. And he said he's got too many years now. He doesn't want to stop. He's got 5 more years, and then he's going to retire and do something he really enjoys doing. I said, well, I don't want to keep you on the phone, but let me encourage you to do this. 2 things. Number 1, encourage him to do something. He said, what? I said, quit. He said, well, he's not going to do that. I said, okay, second thing is, then let's urge him within his job, and I'll be glad to talk with him anytime he wants to, but within his job to look at what would it take to get him enthusiastic about the job, because people are drawn to enthusiasm. People are not drawn to misery. They're not drawn to somebody who hates what they're doing. That's why people are drawn to you. Enthusiasm means take the calling that we have, put the passion with it, put some strength behind it, put some power with it, and you've got a true bona fide servant. Best definition I ever heard of a servant. Some people don't like that word, but I know you do. Best definition I ever heard of a servant is a person who gets excited about making someone else successful. Tyler's back here at the controls. Wave at him there, Tyler. There's Tyler. Tyler does sound, and he gets the lighting, and he does all these things. And when I came in, I walked back there because I always like to meet the people who are doing the sound. And we talked, and I said, where do you want me to stand? How far from the mic? What do you want me to do? He said, stand wherever you want to. I'll adjust it. Let's put a lapel mic on you. Something happens, you can just move. You can do that. I could tell Tyler not only knows what he's doing, he likes what he's doing. My daughter, Joy, I have 3 daughters. My youngest is 36, almost 37. My oldest is 41. The other one's 39. I have one in New York, the middle daughter, Julie. And I was with her 2 weeks ago. And I said, well, new job. And I said, how are things going? Dad, this is great. Never want to leave here. She's on Long Island. This is great. Love being here. I said, fantastic. I'll see you every weekend. I was just kidding. But I kind of, I want to keep up with her. And so she calls me and says, Dad, tell me some things. Give me some quotes. I want to use it with my team. And I appreciate that. I really do. My oldest daughter is a flower designer. And my youngest daughter is a photographer and speaker. She used photography with her speaking, and she is fantastic. She's amazing. She's incredible is what she is. And I'd say that even if she were not my daughter. Well, last night she called me. I said, hey, Pumpkin, how you doing? She said, fine. She said, Dad, I'm headed to somewhere in Kentucky. I said, you're driving? She said, yes, sir. Couldn't take my equipment, having to drive. I said, where are the boys and Isabella, my granddaughter and 2 stump knocker grandsons? And I said, where are they? Well, Chris, her husband has them. And I said, why are you leaving so late? She said, well, Dad, I had a call, and the photography session I'm doing, the lady has gone into labor. Did y'all know that's a big field now? Making pictures of folks having babies? I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Did y'all know that? How many of you? I didn't know that. Joy loves, one person. Okay, Joy loves doing that. And sometimes they say, we want you in there for the delivery. We want you right there. And anyway, I don't ask you any questions. Except, why are you going so early? Well, the lady went into labor, before they expected, so they called and said, hurry, you got to get here. And she said, Dad, you called me just at the right time. I just met a man who reminded me of you. He's a Tennessee State Trooper. This is all true. I just tell truth. And I said, was he was like me or looked like? Well, kind of looked like, but he didn't act like you. He said, I got a bad ticket because I'm going too fast. Didn't know I was going too fast. One of those areas where it changes from 70 to 20, in 50 yards or something. And so anyway, she got a ticket. I said, well, how are you doing? She said, Dad, I'm so excited. I can't wait. How many of these things has she photographed? But she's enthusiastic. She was in a job a couple of years ago that she just was not happy with. And I said, I call her Pie Crust. I said, Pie Crust, what do you really like doing? And she said, Dad, I love photography. I said, then do photography. And I said, you're a great speaker. She was with Starbucks doing training before this other job. Loved being with Starbucks. I was in San Diego at their training series. She was doing training, doing all kind of stuff. She loved it. But then she took another job she thought she liked, and she didn't. I said, go back to speaking. Go back to photography. Quit. And she said, well, Dad, I've got this husband who likes the check I have coming in. I said, well, tell him to work harder. Tell him to call me. Straighten that rascal out. I thought I had that straight before they got married. Enthusiasm. Nothing takes the place of enthusiasm. You're going through the state of Tennessee, headed to Kentucky. You just got a ticket. You're excited about making pictures at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's enthusiasm. And people are drawn to that. And she gets calls from all over. Would you come photograph this? Would you come photograph that? I'll tell you another thing she does that's very serious. You probably heard of this. I never heard of this in my life. It's called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. Joy was telling me about it a while back. She said, well, Dad, that's where we give our time as photographers. And we go into hospitals and we make pictures of little babies after they're born before they die. I said, I've never heard of that. She said, it's not advertised. She said, I spend a lot of time at Children's Hospital in Atlanta. She said, because ladies go through this and they want a picture of that baby. She took a picture of one a couple of weeks ago. They said wouldn't live 2 hours. The baby lived an hour. Now, she doesn't show me those pictures. You don't show them. Only the family gets those pictures. But to do something like that, to do what you do, to do what I do what anybody does, if we're going to do it effectively, we've got to serve with enthusiasm. The second thing I thought about, and you do all this. See, I just learned this from you. Laura taught me this when I first met her. She told me about the organization. You serve with excellence. Good, I think, is the worst enemy of the best. You serve with excellence. Coach Nick Saban is the head football coach at the University of Alabama. Roll Tide, yeah, there you go. Well, I played football at Auburn. Now, I'm not one of those who, I went to Auburn, I hate Alabama or anything. But I love Coach Nick Saban. And I love the way he is, what he does. In the summertime, I get to do a couple of things with him. And I always love it. You know what he's always saying to the football team and the people he works with and to anybody he comes in contact with? Whatever you do, whatever you've done, always try to improve on whatever it is. We want to improve physically. Sure, we want to do that in athletics. Always want to improve physically. We want to do that in anything. We want to do it in your job. I cannot do my job very well if I don't feel good. So the older I get, I'm 65 now. I know I look older, but I'm 65 now, and I have to go to that fitness center. I have to go walk. I have to do the thing because I want to feel good at 11 o'clock on Thursday morning when I get to be with a great group of folks like you. What can I do to improve? What about my eating? That's one reason I went to a lot of restaurants last night. I'm real picky about what I eat. So I was picking out some things, looking at saying, I mean, I'm not that picky. Well, I'm pretty picky. But anyway, I like to, what do I do? Where do I go? Because when I eat right, I feel better. Now, I know it's a little different. I live alone. I've been alone for a lot of years. And I live alone, and so, you know, you can kind of, and I've traveled alone, so you can kind of do your schedule and work on certain things and eat weird and have weird hours and all kind of stuff. But I'm always seeking for excellence. I listen to tapes. When I'm in my car, like Zig Ziglar says, I make it an automobile university. I'm listening to tapes. I listen to books. I listen to whatever. I watch DVDs. I do anything. I don't have television. Now, I won't get in that sounds really weird. I don't have television. I got rid of it 5 years ago. I have the television so I can watch DVDs, but I don't have cable. Now, don't try this at home. I wouldn't urge anybody to do this, but the reason I did it is because I had to do that to try to get more excellence in my life. Not only in my time, but also in my finances. Because I saved a lot of money when I got rid of cable now, or whatever it was, direct. You know, but don't do it. Just look for ways. Look around you. How can I improve? How can I get better? How can I be excellent in my physical makeup, my mental, the things that I think about? What is that we used to say long ago in computers? I took COBOL in 1968 at Auburn. Basically, it took me. But we had the at Auburn, we had the IBM 360. Any of y'all remember the 360? It covered a place about the size of this hotel. I mean, it was just huge. And now your iPhone will do 20 times more than the IBM 360 would ever do. But I remember one thing from COBOL. My teacher used to say this. We have a word, John, in computer language. It's a 4-letter word called GIGO, G-I-G-O. And it means garbage in, garbage out. You put garbage in the computer, That's what comes out. Now, that's the one thing I've been able to use through the years. Mentally, physically, in any area, if you put garbage in, I found out that's what's going to come out. We want to seek excellence in our lives, don't we? Do this. We do, absolutely. We want to seek excellence in our lives. So we don't want garbage going in any form whatsoever. And you're the one to judge that in your own life, of course. But we don't want garbage going. We want good stuff coming out, because whatever goes in is going to come out. Whatever I think about, I'm going to say. And whatever I think about, I'm going to do. And I want excellence. And you do too, or you wouldn't be here. There was an old thing years ago I used to hear people say, I don't hear it much anymore, it said basically this: sow a thought, reap a deed. Sow a deed, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. Excellence. Good is the worst enemy of the best. Now, we're not talking about perfection, because we can't do that. But we want to do the best we can in anything we can. And certain things to remember is improve. Always looking to improve. Like I said earlier, don't know how much time I have left. But I want to use it. I know there are not as many bullets in my gun as there used to be. And I don't want to shoot any more blanks. I want to shoot magnums. And I want to hit right on. So we seek excellence in everything we do. I've always told my daughters, I still tell them, girls, just seek excellence. There's a little verse in the Bible that says, in this I pray that your love will abound more and more in knowledge and all perception, and that you may approve things that are excellent. Or in other words, put it to the test. Weigh it out. Is this good? Is this the best? Is this the best I can do? What do I want to do in my life? Approve things excellent. So we want to serve with, what was the first one? Enthusiasm. Thank you. The second one, serve with excellence. The third one is we want to serve with extravagance. That's one I really like. Serve with extravagance. We're living today in fear of tomorrow in this country. I don't know why that's come about. You say, well, dang, John, look at what's happening in the economy. Look at all the things going on. Yep, that's for sure. But boy, do we still have it made. I was speaking in Belize 3 weeks ago. Belize has a population of about 340,000 people. Everywhere I went, I spoke in 5 different places. Everywhere I went was poverty. And I got to talk to a lot of different people. Spoke in a couple of churches, had a great time just talking to people. Folks that were happy. Yes, I hear people say all along, oh, listen, people who don't have anything, they're the happiest. That's not entirely true. Because I met a lady and her husband. She's sending me her paperwork. She has cancer that started in her vulva. She can't get any treatment. So we're trying to get her some treatment at the University of Alabama Birmingham Medical Center. And there's a man there who's saying, we're going to take care of this lady. There's another guy who's an oncologist in Dothan, Alabama. He says, you get her here and we'll save her life. That's extravagance. That's people who are saying, yes, we're busy, and yes, we do a lot of things, but we want to do anything we can to serve these other folks. We want to help them. The next week I was in Costa Rica. I get there about 3 times a year. There's an organization there that for some reason, I don't know, they don't want me to speak. Anyway, I speak there, and I have a great, great time. Well, you know what they want to do? They want to get more children in school. And I saw kids, 300 kids. And I met with some of them. They are the first in any generation and in their families to ever go to school. And some of them are 15 years old, just started the 1st grade. I met a young lady who's 16. She's in the 2nd grade now. Her mother left her when she was 14 and went back to Nicaragua, and she stayed in Costa Rica. And her mother said, you're old enough now, pretty little girl, you're old enough now to make a living, or in other words, become a working girl. You be a prostitute, send me the money. But this young missionary I know down there found her, got her a place to live, and got her in school. That's serving with extravagance. That's like you do. That's like looking at a need and saying, whatever it takes, we're going to do it. And that's a great phrase, isn't it? Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. Small price to pay. That's what we don't want to do. Make an impact. Do it with enthusiasm. Do it with excellence. And do it with extravagance. Quite a few years ago, a man told me a story from the Northeast. I don't know where this happened. He didn't even tell me the name of the people, but he said it happened. There was a man back in the early 70s who went to the local elementary school. It's called Jackson Elementary School. That's the only thing I remember about any names in the story. Went to Jackson Elementary School and he said, I need a job and I hear that you need a janitor. The principal said, we do need a janitor. You're hired. When can you start? He said, I can start right now. He said, good. Fill this out. And he slid an application over to him and he looked at it and he looked at the principal and he said, sir, I don't write. He said, you don't write? He said, no, sir. He said, I don't read either. He said, you don't read or write? No. He said, well, I'm sorry, but we can't hire you. We don't hire anybody at Jackson Elementary School that can't read or write. He said, well, sir, I'm honest. I'll work hard. I've got a family. He said, I'm sorry. Why don't you go down to City Hall? They'll probably hire you as a garbage collector. So he did. Well, to make a long story semi-long, he went down to City Hall. He got hired as a garbage collector. He worked for 4 years, and he did what he said. He worked hard. He saved his money. He took care of his family, and then he bought a garbage truck. This is when they started doing contract garbage collecting. So he bought a garbage truck and started collecting garbage in that county. 3 years later, he bought 5 more garbage trucks. And after 7.5, almost 8 years, he went to a real estate agent and he said, I want to buy 2 houses. He bought a house for him and his family, his wife and 3 children. Then he bought a house for his mother. And when they went to the lawyer's office to get the paperwork done, the lawyer filled out, he said, how are you paying? He said, cash. The real estate agent, the lawyer said, now you're talking. So he filled out the paperwork, slid it over, said, all you got to do is sign right there. And the man put 2 X's and 3 lines under it. And he slid it back over. And the lawyer looked at it and said, is that your name? He said, no, sir, that's my mark. He said, I don't write and I don't read. And the lawyer, almost without thinking, looked at him and said, man, where would you be if you could read and write? He said, I'd be the janitor at Jackson Elementary School. See, that's serving with extravagance. I'll work hard. Yes, I may have limitations. Daniel's singing that, man, look at where we've been. Look at what we can do. I cannot stand on my head like that pretty young yoga teacher did this morning. I'd like to, but I can't. And it ain't going to happen. But I can do some other things. And what we do and what we can do, we want to do. When we're doing leadership in fearful times, don't ever major on what you can't do. Major on what you can do. Don't major on what we don't have. Major on what we do have. Don't major on all of the problems. Let's major on some possibilities, because I have to believe, will always believe as long as I live, that there are infinite possibilities given us by our Creator. And I think they're there today. The 4th thing, and the last thing. I'm not going to speak till 12:30. Somebody said 12:30. No, I'm about through. The last thing is, and help me, what we talked about, serve with enthusiasm. What was the second one? Excellence. Thank you very much. And then we talked about serve with extravagance. Well, the last thing I want to mention is serve expectantly. See, because y'all do that. The way you serve, you do things, and you expect things to happen. You expect great things to happen. Now, there's a difference in having expectations and being expectant. So often we have expectations, they just don't come about. But when we're expectant, things can happen because something is going to happen. What did we say a minute ago? Sow a thought, reap a deed. Well, if we're not putting out garbage, if we're putting out good stuff, taking in good stuff, then be expectant that good things are going to happen and good things are going to return. Be expectant. You speak to somebody and you smile. Not always. But a lot of times they smile back. Say, how are you? They're fine. But we don't speak, nothing's going to happen. I open doors for people. I'm kind of old-fashioned. I open doors, and I expect them to go through. 90% of the time they do. And sometimes I say, no, you go ahead. You go ahead. I help people in airplanes put their bag up. I figure it's good exercise, and maybe it'll, at least make their day in a little way or something. I especially do it for ladies. Sometimes I do it for men, but not much. They can do it themselves. So I generally help ladies or older guys, But ladies, I do. 80% of the time, ladies, you will let me help you put your bag up. 20% of the time, a lady will look at me and say, I can do it myself. I say, you look like you can. Looking good. They don't like that either. But I like to put the bag up. And I'm expected that they will say, oh, thank you. Thank you. And I'll say, you're welcome. Glad to do it. Serve with expectancy. I remember years ago, a guy told me a story. I don't know why these things have hit me talking about service, but they have. Said he had a friend whose little girl was in the second grade. She was 7 years of age, came home from school one day. Well, he had already heard that the school had caught on fire. Nobody was hurt. Of course, they evacuated. Nobody was hurt. Everything was fine. But she got home, and he was saying, hey, Mary, how you doing, honey? Fine, Dad. Have a good day at school? Oh, yes, sir. Really good. And he just waited. He said, anything unusual happened today? Oh, well, no, sir, not really. He just waited. He said, well, it was just a normal day? Well, yes, sir. She said, oh, I almost forgot. The school caught on fire. He said, really? Were you afraid? She said, oh, no, sir. We've been practicing for it all year. Well, when you expect something and you're expectant, it's okay. We're never shocked, never caught off guard. Are these fearful times? You better believe they are. Is it a great time for leadership? The best. I tell my daughters, now is the time to excel. My two granddaughters are 16 and 15. The grandsons are 7 and 5. They don't have a brain yet. Boys. But anyway, just kidding. I love them, but they smell funny. But my girls, that's my heart now. The girls, that's my heart. And I tell the girls, I say, girls, listen, you're 16, 15. You're living in the greatest time to excel. If you will serve, and this is kind of what I tell them, but now I'm going to really use these 4 points on them. And they'll love it. They've gotten old enough to roll their eyes now. I think their mothers taught them that. But because they were really good at it. But I'll say, if you'll just serve with enthusiasm and excellence, and if you'll serve extravagantly, and if you'll serve expectantly, God only knows, child, what you're going to do. And I believe it with all my heart. Let me close one granddaddy story. My 15-year-old granddaughter is Isabella. 3 years ago when she was 12, maybe it was right before she turned 12. Maybe she was 11 and a half, something like that. I'd gone to see them, in Atlanta, and when I'm in Atlanta, I stay with them, and so Isabella met me at the door. She always did that. So she meets me at the door, and she says, come on, Papa, and she grabs my hand and says, let's go to my room. Well, Joy, my youngest daughter, photographer, speaker, she says, he is not going to your room. He's going to visit with us. And then Isabella pouts, and I do too. But we visit as long as we have to with the rest of the family. Then we go up to her room, and because she likes to play, she plays a guitar. So she likes to play the guitar, and as she plays, used to, she doesn't do that now, used to, she would play the guitar, and she would make up songs. I would sit behind her, because she wouldn't look at me when she was singing. I'd sit behind her, and I'd write down words, not all the words, but just key words, and then she and I would write poetry together. And that was our little thing to do together. She's like I am. She's a little weird, kind of a different world. And so we'd write poetry. Well, this particular day she was playing, and she always played out of tune. This is true. Never wanted her guitar in tune. And she can't play a lick. But, she can't. We call it playing. So she's strumming and singing. I'm writing. And about halfway through it, I was just overwhelmed by this heavenly concert. And I said, Isabella, you are unbelievable. Where did you come from, child? You are amazing. When you grow up, you're going to be a great songwriter, singer, actor. Lord only knows what you're going to do when you grow up. So she stopped playing, and she looked over her right shoulder, kind of a deadpan look at me, and she said, all I need is you. And then she turned back around and kept playing. Well, I wrote a real poem called All I Need Is You. And I wish I'd brought it today. But basically all it says is that there's so many people out there that you don't know, and you'll never know. Because ripples go on and on and on. But all they need is you. And they're where they are today, and they will be where they're going, partly because of you. Because you believed in them. You were their leader. Even in fearful times in their own lives and in this country or in this world, whatever it might be, you are their leader. And whether you know it or not, you are. Maybe children or grandchildren, maybe a friend, maybe your girlfriend or boyfriend, it could be anybody, but somebody is looking at you. And they're looking at that enthusiasm in your life and the passion that comes from it and the love that just pours out of you. And they're looking at that excellence that you do, and they're learning from it. And they say, boy, that's an extravagant person. They just keep giving and giving and giving and doing and doing and doing. I don't know what I'd do without her. I don't know what I'd do without him. And they're so expectant. And when they're expectant, they do things with their lives. Because all they need is you. I really believe that. I really do. So let me just encourage you, keep it up. You got what it takes. I know that. You got what it takes. Keep it up. Keep going. Let's constantly look in our lives for improvement. And until our names really show up in the obituary column, let's start every morning by saying, where am I calling from? What is my attitude? What is my perspective? What do I really want to do? How do I want to help people today? You keep serving. Nobody does it better than you do. Again, Laura, Janine, and to all of you, thank you so much for letting me be here. I can't tell you how much I would look forward to this, and I'm so sorry it's over. I wish we didn't have to quit. Thank you for your response. Thank you for laughing at all my corny stuff. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your service. Thank you that you are the great leaders that you are. May God bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you.